let us roll right on through to our Monday Night Raw review, and we open up with the Authority. Now, normally I would make a joke about how, well, of course, just like every other Raw or something like that, but you know what? I actually enjoyed this Authority segment here. Seth Rollins comes out, and I was a bit concerned at first. I mean, in one way it would make sense because he is a heel. He's supposed to be unlikable. He's supposed to be that douchebag because in his wording he was saying, I conquered the conqueror. Brock Lesnar is going to learn that he's not superior, to me. Like that kind of stuff. It's always about me and I and those kinds of things. And I'm like, okay, Seth, I don't want to go back to you fighting with the Authority. That was even my Raw request, if you remember last week. Like, keep the unity of the Authority. Yeah. But then he finally does give Kane and J&J Security credit for, the assist, the very big assist of taking down Brock Lesnar. And not only does he give him credit, he showers them with gifts. Yep. Gives J&J Security and Kane Apple Watches so they can stay a step ahead of everybody, a step ahead in style, to quote Rollins. Gives Kane a trip to Hawaii, which makes Kane have one of the lines of the night. Says, "Oh, Seth, this is the nicest thing everybody's ever done for me. I've always just wanted to sit in the middle of the beach and, wonder about throwing an animal in the middle of a volcano. And now because of you, I'll be able to do that." So, that was pretty interesting, classic Kane there. And then J&J Security, which I commend Noble for showing up with 3 broken ribs, and Seth openly acknowledged that in his promo. He said, guys, I always see you coming in the rental car, and, that's not going to happen anymore because he got them a 2015 Cadillac kind of model, really nice-looking car. And, J&J Security loved it, and, they were unified. And the whole kind of theme of the promo, because they were in Washington, D.C., was that, despite all the politicians and everything, you guys don't know what real power is. What's standing in this ring, that's real power, the flaunting of Seth's wealth, and, his ability to kind of, get these gifts. That's true power. So it was a great segment, because I think there was so much cheese in it that you had to be entertained. I know you were laughing a couple times, as was I. Seth is back on his game now that the Authority is, kind of behind him. I like that. Let's have a strong antagonist system. Let's have a strong protagonist, and let's just do our title match. It may not be what I envisioned, but let's just try and work with it. So what did you think of this opening segment?
I really dug this opening segment. As far as Rollins, though, just the cheese factor, like you said, it was over 9,000. So great. I think that what really made this segment overall was just the fact that it was so deadpan. Like, Rollins was completely straight-faced about the whole thing. I wouldn't have been able to do that. Like, I would have been cracking up. And then another thing that I loved about this was almost like how, I don't even know if I should say this, but it was like super meta too, because like you're in Washington, D.C., and you're giving out gifts in exchange for favors, basically.
That's a great point. I didn't even bother to think about that. That's an excellent point.
Yeah.
You know what I really liked about this, too, to keep giving credit to Rollins, which is so refreshing, because I feel like I've been kind of, ragging on him lately. I really loved how he towed the line on the mic. To give you a perfect example, when he's about to unveil the gift of Hawaii to Kane, he talks about Kane's career and his longevity, and he's like, when you were, the monster, back then those Apple Watches didn't even exist.
Back when
Clinton was in office.
Yeah.
But then he saves it because you think, oh, he's just going to rag on Kane again. And then, I was really nervous about my Raw request. And then he's like, and Paul Heyman was still a fat, miserable scumbag, just really riding Paul Heyman to the ground. And then he says, well, then I guess not really much has changed. And I'm like, oh, Seth, great recovery. Way to be passive-aggressive there. Just complimenting Kane and then, taking it out on somebody else. Really, really like that. So I wanted to give Seth praise there. Yeah, overall, a really solid segment. I know it's a common complaint. It's the same kind of heel faces or faction or whatever dominating the beginning of the show, taking a good chunk of the segment. But I felt like there was an energy to it, and the gifts, and again, the cheese like we talked about. Just everything seemed to work, so I don't have a problem with that. And, is there anything else you want to say about this, or can I just go into the transition that WWE made here?
No, I just love the little homage. I mean, you're in Washington, D.C., you got a bunch of guys that are going to be doing you a big favor in a few weeks. Why not hand out some gifts and like a little homage to big business in the politician, whatever you want to call it.
Right, and in the political sphere, in the political
epicenter
of the United States.
Yeah, political sphere. That's exactly what I was trying to say.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not, again, I'm really glad you brought that point up because it really does take it to the next level. And I mean, obviously far above my head because I didn't think about it until you said it. So great job there. Really enjoyed this. And then Big Show comes out, and at first I kind of raised an eyebrow because I'm like, oh, this is interesting because he's aligned with the Authority, but nobody got him an Apple Watch, nobody got him a car. Like, is he gonna have a gripe about that? But no, he just smiles in their direction and he goes to the ring, and he's facing Mark Henry. I like, again, I mentioned pacing at the top of the show, and this was probably the best example of it because Big Show versus Mark Henry, very quick matchup. I like that a lot. I think Miz was on commentary, if I'm not mistaken, for this match, which is how we actually got led into our next segment, but I'm not going to go there because we have to talk about this. Not really much to say about this, though. Not much of a hoss fight between these two guys. All I remember is Mark Henry got a splash at one point, but that only got a 2 count. And then before I knew it, Big Show got one knockout punch, which had Henry staggering against the ropes. But then Big Show hits another one, and that takes Henry down. So it did take 2 knockout punches, but, I mean, Big Show handled Mark Henry with relative ease here, Ashton.
Yeah, I mean, I love Mark Henry and especially heel Mark Henry, but I guess that they're just kind of trying to phase him out so that they don't have to depend on him for anything because of how injury prone he is.
Yeah, and as much as I hate to say it, I mean, that does make sense.
That's definitely the
Uh,
smart thing to do at this point.
I mean, yeah, and you and I
Like
love Mark,
he's one of
yeah.
those things where he'll show up for a month or two and then be injured for another 9.
Exactly. So, handle him with care, more or less.
Yeah.
Um, and I'll tell you what, somebody who doesn't really care to handle anybody with care was Ryback, because he charges the ring. He wants to get revenge on Big Show because obviously everybody knows that we rarely, like, our viewership of SmackDown is kind of on and off. We waffle from week to week. But, last.
Usually why. I mean, here's the thing. With me at least, I always have it on my TV
Right.
when it's on TV, but it's a matter of whether I'm actually paying attention to it or just doing random things on the internet.
Yeah, see, I'm pretty much in the same boat as you. Only difference is, I don't have cable, so really, it's a matter of do I bother to, pull up a streaming site that's like airing SmackDown, and more often than not, unless there's a particular match on the card, like I think it was 2 weeks ago that it was Cesaro Owens, that then I will go to do it. But apparently, Big Show laid out Ryback, so Ryback's here to get a measure of comeuppance, so they're still going back and forth, and Ryback takes Big Show out. But then Miz, if I'm not mistaken,
Oh,
he nails a boot to the face of Ryback, and then he
right.
just runs away.
Yeah. That was my favorite part of this whole segment. Miz literally just gets in the ring, big boot to Ryback, runs to the opposite side of the ring, and goes out under the ropes, and then runs to the top of the ramp to celebrate again.
But you know what's scary? Because I know you and I were kind of talking about the triple threat. If Miz keeps up these tactics, I mean, those are the kind of tactics that win you a championship in a triple threat. Because
Yep.
he's probably going to be booked in this match at Battleground. And that's not making any predictions. It's just talking about the match structure, where
Right.
he's going to be very picky about his spots. He'll be the guy that,
And
say,
the two big lugs that he's in there with might not necessarily be smart enough to go after him and might just go after each other instead.
yeah, they'll be so absorbed in their own beef. Like, I could already see a spot where maybe, like, Ryback and Big Show do a double clothesline or something. You know what I mean? They're both taking off their feet, and then Miz just rushes in and tries covering one of those guys. Like,
See, and
that's
my
the kind of
immediate
character Miz
my
is.
immediate thought was like Ryback, Big Show, and Miz in the ring. The bell rings for them to actually start, and Miz just goes out under the ropes, and he's just like backs off with his hands up, and he's just like, "I'm out of this, man. You guys can fight." And Big Show and Ryback look at each other, and then they look at Miz, and then they look at each other, and then they just start wailing on each other, and Miz is just completely out of it, and they're just destroying each other.
Yeah, definitely guerrilla-style warfare being employed by the Miz effectively.
Was that an
Uh,
homage to PWG?
well, kind of. I mean, that show we just got done watching was amazing.
Yeah, we actually did. We just watched DDT4, guys, and it was a really great show. The reason we didn't react to it is because we didn't really know how the tournament style would really work with live reactions, and I think in hindsight we made the right decision because we were actually really quiet watching most of the show up until like the last 3 matches.
Yeah, definitely.
So
But Ryback gets on the microphone. He pretty much says, I know we're having a match scheduled, tonight, but come back here. Let's do it right now so you can feed me more. I'm telling you, I consistently week after week just love Ryback as Intercontinental Champion. It is such a great fit.
he is
Um,
definitely one of the high spots, hint hint wink 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 of every episode of Raw lately.
Definitely, and it's so great to say because I feel like we haven't been able to say that Since, he was on the whole rise, with his streak and then getting in the title picture with CM Punk and just that Ryback. So it feels great to see him kind of come back slowly but surely into that territory. And I like that the speed is kind of slowed down because now more people can embrace him because so many people were apparently put off at how fast the first go around was. But now this feels far more organic. He's in a great place. And at first I think, well, that's not going to happen because Miz is saying, no, we have the match later. But then we come back from break, and then these guys are having a matchup. So again, keeping up, I love the pacing of these matchups and everything. Not really much to say here, Ashton. I mean, these guys, had a nice little back and forth. But ultimately, Miz couldn't handle what Ryback was dishing out, and he did the classic heel 101 maneuver, and he took a walk.
Yeah, he just bailed, man.
Yeah, bailed like a punk.
Yeah, he was invested in having all of that.
Exactly. He was
He
looking at
just
that, and
wanted a piece. He just wanted a piece, and then he was gone.
exactly. He's looking at that, and he's like, nope. And he just hightails it. So
Would you
Ryback
say
does.
that he channeled his inner Dean Ambrose? Nope.
Yeah, buddy.
Nope.
Uh,
Nope. The F out of there.
Absolutely. So Ryback does win by count out.
Uh,
I mean, again, I'm enjoying the reign. I still don't know where Miz fits in all of this. I'm hoping that Ryback's reign doesn't end at Battleground. I'm not asking for the guy to hold it for 7 or 8 months. I'd be content with Ryback holding that belt for a good 3 to 4 months. Just let him get through a few defenses at least.
yeah.
Um,
I just really don't want him to lose it to Big Show right now.
No. I don't even know if I want Big Show to be a champion period, because I was about to say, I'd be okay if this, but I don't even know if I really would be okay. I want to always be honest. I just feel like Big Show's that guy that's meant to kind of legitimize Ryback's reign. And then we move on to, somebody else, whoever that is. But yeah, I can't even really say solid match because there wasn't really much of a match. And again, Miz took a walk, so I guess it served its purpose. Ryback's still looking dominant, doesn't back down from a fight, and Miz is still looking like that shrewd guy that picks his hills to die on. So everybody's exactly where they need to be.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think, and if you guys have been following TwitWow since the beginning, 3 years ago, the 3 year ago version of me probably would have slapped what I'm about to say in the face. The Miz has been consistently behind Ryback the most entertaining part about this entire angle.
Yeah.
The Miz has been really, really good for this entire angle. Good for the IC title. Good for Ryback, I would even say. And honestly, he's kind of making me like Big Show more because Big Show's the one that's knocking him out most consistently.
Right? It's great because he's serving as kind of like that gadfly in the affairs of Ryback and Big Show.
I don't know what you're talking about. What does that
Well,
mean?
just like that mosquito, if you will, just kind of
Oh,
pestering these two guys when they're trying to handle their beef.
yeah.
And it works though. He plays the role to such a T. They're not trying to ham it up where, oh, look at this guy compared to these two behemoths, David versus Goliath stick. No, because Miz is the heel. So in actuality, he's meant to be the irritant, and he does it to perfection. I mean, we've been saying ever since he returned with that Hollywood snob kind of gimmick,
Yeah.
this is the best Miz that we've seen. It just seems like Miz is really fully embracing himself. And yeah, he just continues even after Mizdow and that whole slump, like he's found himself in this. I mean, hell, I'd say he really is doing better than we didn't even see Sandow tonight. I can't remember the last time we saw Sandow, period. So yeah, Miz is actually doing pretty all right for himself in the grand scheme of things, and yeah, he seems to fit quite nicely in this angle for the time being.
Yeah, I mean, I know that Macho Mandow and Axelmania have been working house show matches as a tag team because a couple days ago there was a picture posted and I think it was Brad Maddox and Bo Dallas taking them on, and everyone was freaking out because Brad Maddox was finally back in a WWE ring.
Right.
People are questioning does he even have a job anymore and that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah, I miss Brad Maddox a lot.
Oh, yeah, I miss him so much too. So much personality, all being wasted.
Yeah, WWE is trying so hard to make an interesting angle that just turns out cringy. In the meanwhile, you can make Brad Maddox try and do something cringy, and he'll turn it into an interesting angle.
It just seems to be like the story of his life that you just told right there. So, yeah.
All right, let's move on.